Look at that, guys. Yum. It's so good. So that's a tip. That's a trick. And I also have another secret ingredient that I'm going to put in there when we come back. So stay tuned.
What do you want for Christmas?
Hose.
So I started my greens. Well, I haven't put the greens in yet, but this is the stock that I make. So let me show you guys. But there is smoked turkey wings in there. Carrot, celery, onion. Let me see if I can pull up. It's been cooking for like an hour and a half. This is smoked turkey wing. So it's got 40 more minutes, and then I will, depending on how tender it is, it's still a little tough, but then I will add in, I'm actually going to switch it to this bigger Dutch oven pot, because that one is a smaller one and it's too small, but it was big enough for me to cook the smoked turkey in there. So what type of meat do you guys use for your greens? I'm actually making collard greens. So I will come back and show you guys once I put the greens in there. Oh, also I put some seasonings in there. There's some garlic, some minced garlic. I put some onion powder, black pepper, a little bit of garlic powder. Normally when I'm using garlic, like fresh garlic or the jarred garlic, I don't use garlic powder, but I did put a little bit of garlic powder in there. Some onion powder, black pepper, a little bit of salt. So yeah. So I will come back and show you guys what that looks like in the next 40 minutes when I add the greens in. Okay, so you saw me strain off the dead veggies that was in the stock, because this is what we created. We created our own stock with this smoked turkey wing right here. It is nice and tender. It cooked for 2 hours. I was tired last night, so I didn't finish the recipe last night. So I just put that stock in the refrigerator. There's a couple leftover little bits right here. I wouldn't leave those veggies in because the flavor is already cooked out. We're actually going to add some fresh onion into this once we put the greens in. So the meat at this point is falling off the bone. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's falling off the bone. I don't particularly like to have the skins in there, so I try to take those off. So I try to take those out. Let me get a plate. I just like to take the skin off if I can, as much as possible. See how it just came right off? And if it's some meat on there, you can taste that, or you can throw it back in the pot. I'm actually going to save that for myself. It is nice and flavorful, guys. So the big bones I'm going to keep in the pot, because for those of you who may not know, the bones actually add flavor to your stock. So the big bone like this, Gonna try to do this with my left hand, guys. The big bones I like to keep in the pot while I'm cooking the greens, because they add flavor to the broth or to the overall dish. This little bone right here, he's big enough where I can leave him in there because I can see it, so I can pull it out at the end. Sometimes you're gonna have things like this. I guess that's a tendon or something like that. You want to pull that out because that's not going to be good to eat. There's another bone I'm going to keep in there. So I'm going to taste this smoked meat, guys. It's so good. Okay. So this is the homemade broth that we made. Okay. Yum. I'm going to show you the greens that I got. This is the bag of collard greens that I got from Walmart. This is a big bag, guys. This is actually 2 pounds. And it was $5, which is, I think, a great deal. So these are already washed and cut up. I am going to go through and still rinse them off and take... sometimes they have like stems, the hard stems are still in there. But guys, I love this. I've been using this, the collard greens that's already cleaned and washed. They're called cut and clean greens. I've been using these for years. I don't see myself going back to cutting up my greens and, you know, doing, that's a whole deal. I mean, if you like to do that, great. But guys, you know, around here we like to take shortcuts, but the food is still delicious. So I'm gonna go ahead and rinse these off and get them in the pot, and then I'm gonna show you what seasonings we're gonna use for the greens. I'll be right back. All right, guys, so this is the amount of stems that came from half of that bag, so that's quite a lot. So you want to make sure you go through, if this is the method that you want to use, the ones that's already cleaned and cut, which to me, that still saves me a lot of time. But this is from half of the bag. This is the stems that you do not want to leave in your final dish. Half of the greens are going in, and there may still be some more stems in here. I can just pick them out as I go. And you guys should know that greens of any kind, it is definitely going to shrink down. So this is a 2 pound bag, but by the time we're done, it'll probably be less than half of this pot. And I switched over to my big, I think this is a 7-quart pot. I switched over to that, and it's gonna be less than a half a pot when we're done. Okay, so like here's another stem that I don't want in my final dish. So let me go and clean off the other half, and I'll be right back. The rest of the greens. And I can show you how many stems came off of this one. Still picking a couple out. Guys, a couple small ones to me is fine, but I just don't like a whole bunch of woodsy stems in my dish. Some chopped onion. At this point, I am actually going to add in, this is garlic, guys. This is minced garlic. About that much garlic. That's probably a tablespoon. And we're going to add in some hot sauce right now. That's for flavor. Some apple cider vinegar. I'm going to add a cap full, and this will help to tenderize the greens. So, cap full of that. A tablespoon of brown, about a tablespoon of brown sugar. And it's not going to make it sweet, guys. That's going to cut that bitter flavor that we know that greens have. So about a tablespoon of brown sugar. I've also used white sugar. You can use white sugar too, but you need to have that in there to cut the bitterness of the greens that the greens naturally have. So then I have a couple other seasonings that I'm going to put in. I'm going to put in a little bit now just to show you guys. But the trick to, so some black pepper here. So one of the tricks to making your greens is that if you're using dried seasonings, which most of us are, dry seasonings, they will cook out of your recipe. They cook faster than if you're using fresh herbs and spices. So I'm just going to put a little bit, and that's the Lowry's that I'm going to use. I'm just going to put a little bit in for now so you guys can see what I'm using. But we're going to come back once the greens have cooked for about 30 to 40 minutes. We're going to come back and we're going to actually re-season it because we don't want the seasonings to cook out. So that's a tip. That's a trick. And I also have another secret ingredient that I'm going to put in there when we come back. So stay tuned. So the greens have been cooking for about 10-15 minutes now, but I want to go ahead and show you the other ingredients that I put in. I actually have two what I call secret ingredients. So the first thing is butter. Yep, that's right, butter. Paula Deen said it best. We put butter in everything, and butter makes everything better. So that's about 1.5 tablespoons of butter. And then the next ingredient that I think gives a lot of flavor, but you have to be careful with this because it has a high sodium content, of course, because it is chicken bouillon. But this one is the better than bouillon, and this is the roasted chicken base. This is really good, guys. It makes a lot of different foods taste really good, but again, you need to be very careful with this. So I'm going to start off with about 1/2 tablespoon maybe, because you don't want it salty. You know, we got to be careful with the sodium intake. So I'm going to stir this up, and then when I come back, we're going to add the rest of our seasonings to it. So we already took out most of the fat, the skin, because we didn't want that. This is the last big bone right here. So we're going to take that out. Yes, ma'am, we got all the flavor out of those bones. Here's one more. We're going to take that out. Look at that, guys. Yum. Yum. This is delicious. And look at that pot liquor up in there. Look at that pot liquor. Guys, as promised, this is the final shot of my greens. Guys, they came out so good. Alright guys, so I hope you make this recipe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Let me know in the comment section, guys. Let's get a discussion going on. What type of meat do you use in your greens? Is there a certain ingredient that you like to use in your greens that I didn't? Or yeah, let us know. Alright guys, happy holidays.
What do you want for Christmas?
Host.